Welcome to the Plant Power Revolution. I am Lori DePietro Standen, and today I want to talk about leveling up and what that's really like in your life. I did a mindset marathon series not too long ago, and it was so successful. And it's because our mindset around changing our life and changing our patterns can be so set in stone that it actually stops us from moving forward. So I just wanted to do a short video to talk about what it is like when you actually make that commitment to level up and where people get tripped up in terms of stopping that process and reverting back to their old habits. So I have a personal story with this, as you know, and it's not much different than many of you. I was very entrenched in my habits. I was eating the standard American diet. I was highly addicted to what I was eating. I was eating a lot of fast food, a ton of sugar, and my family was eating the same way that I was. So we all were addicted in that way and very set in our ways. And I got to a point where I had to change that in order to move forward in my life, because I was very sick and overweight and I had chronic fatigue. And so the whole thing was pretty overwhelming to think about. But I went through it step by step. That's what I help my clients do. But I also, I wanted to get across to you what the actual steps look like when you're trying to change your diet and really change your life. So the first thing that you encounter is internal resistance. Stephen Pressfield has an amazing book on this called The War of Art. And there's also a great Super Soul Sunday podcast on this that you can look up. And it's really about the messages that we get internally that tell us now is not the time. This isn't the right decision. You can't do this. Everyone's going to be against this. I'm going to do this later. All of those things that make you feel like, no, this is just not going to work. It's basically like buyer's remorse, right? We've all had that where we were so excited about something and then we purchased it. And as soon as we got it, we were like, oh, what was I thinking? I shouldn't have done this. And so that's what internal resistance is like. And the way Stephen Pressfield describes it is that the more important it is that you do it, the greater your resistance is. So that's almost a barometer of how much you need to do something when you really feel that resistance, because that means you're super entrenched in your own comfort zone, which for most of us is not that comforting. Our comfort zone is just a place where we're hanging out that we're used to. It doesn't mean it's a good thing. So that internal resistance is really strong, and it's so important that you see it for what it is and that you just move through it. So after you get through that first step, you can count on most likely some external resistance. So a lot of times we have family, friends, coworkers, the people around us who don't want to see us change, because people don't like change. They don't like it when they have to change, and so they don't want you to change either. And so especially if they're, if you have an eating buddy, if you and your colleagues always go out to, lunch at these places where you're eating a lot of foods that aren't great for you, maybe your coworkers are bringing lots of donuts and dips and chips and things into work all the time, and everybody's sort of, it's just this group psychology around doing this stuff. Or maybe you have a family like I did. I had a toddler and 2 teenagers and a husband who were not interested in changing their diet. So I got resistance from them. And so there's, even parents can be this way as well. I've known adult women who get a ton of resistance from their moms on changing their diet. And it's actually been difficult for them. So there can be different people in your life who are resistant, and it's because they don't like change and they don't want to have to relate to you any differently. They don't want to have to look at their own habits, and so they don't want you to change. And so they'll say things like, really, like with the plant-based diet, like, well, that seems really extreme, and you're not going to be able to eat anything, or what do you mean you can't just have one piece of this, or they'll try to make it seem like what you're doing is not the right thing and that it's a hassle, that you're no fun anymore, which they can do with any kind of eating plan you're on. So you can expect that resistance. And the way that you get through that is just by staying strong, because eventually that resistance stops, either because they're tired of arguing with you about it, because you're not engaging with them, so you're just like, listen, I'm doing what I'm doing, and you're not trying to convince them, and they're tired of arguing with you. Or sometimes, a lot of times actually, when they see you getting healthier, they'll be like, okay, what are you doing again? And they actually have questions and they want to get on board. With your family at home, I have a 5-step guide to help you transition people at home. It's even people who are, if your family is not really interested in going plant-based, there's still a way that you can transition things at home to make it easier for yourself. So you can get past that phase, I promise you. Not everyone in your family has to go plant-based, although usually when they have a leader, and if you are a good leader, which is what I help the women with in my program, they usually get on board. So that's pretty exciting to see when you see the whole family start to eat healthier. So you have the internal resistance and the external resistance. And you might also be fighting, like I mentioned, mental and physical fatigue. You're feeling overwhelmed because you already don't feel well, right? So if you haven't really been taking care of yourself for a long time, like I hadn't, I really felt like I only had about 3 good hours a day. I was exhausted. And just the thought of changing what I was doing, trying to come up with recipes, shopping differently, arguing with my family, it all just seemed really overwhelming to me. So just know that you can do this in stages. And that's what, with my program, I help women do that, is they have so much support to do this in a way that makes sense. And you just have to start. Taking the first step is often the hardest, and taking the first few steps can be hard. But once you get going, you get over that hump, which I'll talk about in a second. But that mental and physical fatigue at the beginning is normal. And if you can just get through that, and it's a short period of time, then you can move forward and you're feeling so much better. It's completely worth it. So, and the last part of sort of that beginning phase is food mourning. So, people will say, like, I don't want to give up meat and dairy because it's just a huge part of our culture. It's part of everything that I'm doing. Like, we have a cookout and we have burgers, and my family's favorite meal is chicken. And when I grew up, we always had pork on New Year's. And so you have all these reasons why food is tied emotionally to your life. And what you have to realize, the way that I looked at this was that my life was like a relay. Okay, so not like a sprint or a marathon, but like a relay. And the person who ate all of those things and became very heavy and ill because of them was passing the baton to this next healthy person who was going to be eating differently. So there was a time in my life when I ate those things and enjoyed those things, and now I was going into a new time in my life where I was going to enjoy different foods. So that's the way that you have to look at it. Plus, there are so many substitutions now. When I first started this journey, 15 years ago, there weren't very many substitutions. If you wanted, a veggie burger, or if you wanted a brat or something like that, like it was, or vegan cheeses. I mean, there was just hardly anything out there. If you're going to cook out now, you have so many options in terms of those substitution foods that taste amazing. So the food mourning is a lot less, but just know that it's more of an emotional thing. And if you think of it like the relay, you can get past that, and then you really start to embrace and love your new foods. So that's sort of the beginning part, and that's super rocky, right? But then the next thing that starts to happen, actually, when you start taking those first few steps, is you start to get your energy back, and that feels amazing. You don't feel so fatigued mentally and physically, and that is incredible. That I remember almost having such serious brain fog when I was on the standard American diet, which, if for those of you who aren't aware, the standard American diet just means you're eating what everybody else is eating. In the United States, most of us eat about 70% processed foods, about 25% meat and dairy, and only 5% fresh fruits and vegetables. So that's the standard American diet, or somewhere thereabouts. And I had such awful brain fog that I was actually getting concerned that I was having some sort of early onset Alzheimer's or something. So one of the things I hear across the board when people adopt a plant-based diet is that they're thinking so much more clearly. And that is it's an amazing feeling to, feel like you're back in control of your mind, and your body. And so you start to get that mental and physical energy back, and you're developing new habits. So, a new habit is like, forming a path, right? So if I was cutting through the woods to form a path, that would be rough, right? But once you get the path going, then it becomes easy. It becomes easier every time you take it. So you're forming those new habits. You are starting to lose weight and feel less bloated and feel better. And so that makes the new habits easier to maintain because you're seeing results. You're not having the cravings for the food that you were having before, because your body is actually designed to crave the food you're eating, which can be totally working against you or working for you depending on what you're eating. So as you change your habits, you actually start to crave the healthier food if you're really committed to it. Now, if you're still dipping your toe in, if you're still only doing it halfway, then you're not going to experience that. But if you're committed to it, you actually start to crave the healthy foods. I can't tell you how many times clients have told me that, like, I can't believe the foods I'm craving. It's amazing. It's healthy stuff. And you start to actually love the foods that you're eating instead of missing all of the crap that you used to eat before. You actually start to love the foods that you're eating, and you start to get empowered so that you're setting boundaries in your life. You're being strong in every area of your life, because when you take control of one area of your life, it is a domino effect. I've talked about this many times into the rest of your life. And so when you start saying, okay, I'm going to take care of myself in this area, you start to take care of yourself in a lot of areas. It makes you stronger in all of your relationships, and things start to get better for you overall. I had a client tell me once, which I will always repeat this because it was a perfect way to put it, that they were a more effective human being now for eating this way. And it's because it filters into other areas of your life. So you start to feel more powerful, more in control, instead of like your food is the boss of you and you're going to bed every night going, okay, I'm going to do better tomorrow, because you're out of control with your cravings and whatever. And you're, giving into peer pressure, and you're not staying on track and all these things. This becomes then a new way of living, not just a lifestyle, but an actual new way of living, where you are waking up feeling powerful, you're feeling good, you're feeling in control, you're feeling healthy, and you don't miss the way that you felt before at all, and you don't miss the foods you ate before at all. This is what leveling up looks like. So I'm just being honest with you. It's rocky at the beginning, but it is totally worth it. You can push through that, especially if you have support. And that's the biggest mistake that I see people making, is thinking they don't need the support, because most people really do. They need a support system of people on their side during the first part to help them get over the hump. So I hope this has been helpful for you to think things through. Don't be afraid of this. Everyone experiences the resistance, but once you get through that beginning part of it, there is so much wonderful health and life to be had on the other side of that, that you will never, ever regret pushing through. So if you're interested in my program and getting help with that, then feel free to contact me. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you are part of the Plant Power Revolution. Stay strong and have an amazing day.